excited that all of you are here with us today. My name is Andrea Lee, and I will officially introduce myself in just a few minutes. So, to begin, a little bit about our panel. So, we have one speaker from Middle Tennessee State University who really started this initiative, Hannah. So, thank you so much for all of your work with this. It's been absolutely phenomenal working with you. You are an amazing person, and I'm always inspired by everything that you do. And we also have Dr. Daniel Bailey, Nick Kirsten, and Philip Short joining us from Austin Peay State University in Tennessee. And our universities are about an hour or so apart, so we're not that far from each other. So we hope to do more collaborative projects together in the future. So welcome again, everyone. We're so glad you're here, and we're looking forward to networking together and sharing some opportunities for networking with each other. So Hannah, your turn. So please share a little bit more about STEM with Ukraine with us.
Thank you, Andrea. Thank you for this very kind introduction, and thank you everyone for joining our first lecture for this course. Um, so, um, so this course is a collaboration between Middle Tennessee State University, Quantum at MTSU, STEM with Ukraine, Austin Peay, where Andrea and her colleagues are from, and Rehoboth State Pedagogical University. And the original idea of this course came from STEM with Ukraine initiative. This is a volunteering organization between United States and Ukraine. So this picture is not doing a good job here because, but anyways, we have like 12 institutions from United States and around 12 institutions from Ukraine, and hopefully things will grow as we proceed because I see participants from other institutions. And I would like to first introduce coordinators from Ukrainian side. This is Dr. Christina Wojtowicz. Yes, she's waving. Thank you, Christina. And she's coordinating the efforts on higher education level, on universities level. And Ms. Olha Leshko, she's a PhD student in physics, and she's helping us to coordinate K-12 education from Ukraine. Olha, are you here? Okay, but
Yeah.
I see she's here. Great. So thank you to these wonderful people who are making these impossible things possible. So thank you for your work and participation. But the big goal of this STEM with Ukraine initiative is to provide help, this very much needed help and support to Ukraine in these very difficult times since the war has started. And idea is to help us to build the community between United States and Ukrainian scholars and teachers and students by providing course curriculum between our universities and our countries, collaboration opportunities, scholar exchange, internships, mentoring, and English classes. Part of the things that we are doing this thing today in English is because we want our Ukrainian colleagues to have opportunity to practice English and to be integrated in Western educational system to facilitate this integration faster. Next slide, please. So this course, I'm just going to be quick, but this course is a second course. Our first course was last spring, and that course was Introduction onto Quantum Computing. So this is where STEM part comes from. So as you can see from the map, this is a map of participating institutions from Ukraine, but we also had 5 other countries participating. So overall, we have 29 institutions across Ukraine from 12 different regions, and for that we are very grateful. And we had after you complete this course, you'll get the certificate. So you will get the same here in this course. So we had 100 certificates have been awarded to students from Ukraine, and you can see happy students from Drohobych University. Here's a picture. And again, we are very grateful for this, for your participation and interest. That means a lot to us. So Andrea, next slide, please. So in addition to courses, we are providing remote research collaboration opportunities to Ukrainian scholars and students. So this is actually collaboration between our university, MTSU, nearby Fisk University, and Oak Ridge National Lab, the well-known lab in the world in computation, where Christina and Olga were remotely joining us to do research on computational research on material research. Okay. Let's move on to the next. In addition to this, we also let Preston introduce himself, but Dr. Preston McDougall has been collaborating with the professor from Dr. Yevhen Krechko, from Bogolyubov Institute of Theoretical Physics, where they collaborated, and they have been not only awarded the American Physics Society award grant, but also were able to publish their work recently. Great job, Preston. Um, STEM with Ukraine also provides paid internship opportunity for Ukrainian students and scholars to visit United States. So Christina and Olga were our first batch of visitors, of interns. So this summer they came to United States for 1 month. And they visited 4 different universities: Middle Tennessee, Austin Peay. This is how collaboration with Andrea and her colleagues have started. Vanderbilt University and University of Michigan, where they have given 4 invited talks. Next slide. They also had an opportunity to visit, to participate in, to observe educational system in Ukraine, to see how we teach classes, see pedagogy and methodologies, visit middle and high school schools in United States, as well even Discovery Center and Scientific Museum in United States. So you can see it's very, very broad spectrum of opportunities that can be provided for you, whether you are a teacher, student, or a faculty. Okay, so next slide, please. So that's the reason we're having this course. This is course number 2 of STEM with Ukraine initiative, but this one is on leadership and academic skills development. So today we're going to talk about networking and relation building, but we have growth mindset, time management, emotional intelligence, all these things which help you to grow as a professional. If you get me to my last slide, and then I will give the room to Andrea. Andrea, next slide, please. Thank you. I want to just mention that why to be in this class. This is not a regular class. So this is not like a lecture standard class. I'm not going to talk, and Andrea will not going to talk all the time. This is really about a course to help us to build a community between you guys and us. Okay, so we can meet each other, we can talk to each other, we can learn from each other, and we can grow together as a community and support each other. Okay, and one of the also purposes of this course is to identify potential people who can come to United States for internships and further collaborations. So please be active. So we notice you and tell us that you would be interested in internship and working with us together, but also to inspire from each other and learn from each other. A warning sign. This is in English, and I remember from the previous class, English may be a little bit of barrier. Do not be afraid. To speak English, it's okay to make mistakes in English. It's absolutely normal. Think of this like if you have ever observed a child learning how to walk, they always fall down. So they always make mistakes, but they immediately get up. Okay, so please don't be afraid to speak up, and to practice your English. Even with mistakes is fine. And if you have to speak in Ukrainian, I can translate to English. So we are here to help you too. Okay, so with this, I'm going to give the floor to Andrea. But before I do that, huge thank you to Andrea. Thank you for your enthusiasm, for your kindness, for your support, for all the work you do. And thank you for bringing all these wonderful people to this meeting today. Really appreciate to learn with you and to be part of your community too. So, дякую.
I want to say thank you to you. I mean, you have been so inspiring, and I truly enjoy all of our collaborative work that we're doing. So a big thank you to you and the team, Hannah. You have been incredibly impressive. So we're going to begin first with introductions from our panel members. So first, Dr. Bailey, would you like to introduce yourself?
All right, thank you. I had to mute myself. Yeah, great to be here, guys. And I really like what Hannah had to say about, just not being afraid to use English and that we can use this presentation as an opportunity to engage one another with English. I worked in South Korea in foreign language education for the upwards of 20 years, and really just enjoyed that work and getting students confident and to stand up and speak and to use a target language was always priority. Yeah, I did my master's remotely with University of Texas. I did my PhD at Korea University, and research interest in all things education, education technology, foreign language education, motivation, and really, I love the action research in the classroom, and as well as questionnaire studies using cross-sectional research designs, but a variety of different designs. Maybe I'll talk a little bit about that later. But yeah, right now, really interested in working with generative AI, battling AI plagiarism and how to integrate it in the classroom is something that's a hot topic. But thank you for again allowing me to come here and give a brief presentation today.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bailey. Nick?
Hey, greetings and welcome. I want to introduce myself. I'm Nick Kirsten. I'm an instructor at Austin Peay. I'm also in a doctoral program with Dr. Lee, Dr. Bailey, and later Dr. Short. I wanted to say thank you so much for being here. And again, to echo everybody before me, feel free to speak English because your English is far better than my Ukrainian. But definitely wanted to say welcome to this. Specifically about me, I'm a project management professional. I've been a project management professional for about a decade. And this conference really helps speak to some of those big points, especially the soft skills that you're going to learn and develop here. So one, we're really excited to have you here, and I'm really excited to talk to you about some tips. I hope you have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much, Nick. And my name is Andrea Lee. I've been working in higher ed since 2006, primarily in South Korea. I lived there for 11 years. I actually moved there about 20 years ago, but I came back to the US a couple of times. My husband's from South Korea as well. Ukraine holds a very special place in my heart. My great-grandparents are from what is now Ukraine, and I love learning about Ukrainian history and culture. My research interests include refugee education, in particular, North Korean refugees. I worked with a lot of North Koreans in South Korea who had escaped from North Korea. I'm also very passionate about promoting human rights awareness in North Korea, intercultural communication, international students, and educational technology. And I'm always open to research collaborations as well if anybody is interested. And then finally, we have Dr. Philip Short. Dr. Short, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, I think I was invited just to bridge the generational gap, but I'm an old biologist who somehow ended up in education, and so I belong in the STEM world, but I'm in the education world now. My international work has mostly been in Suriname and Northeast South America, which is a very diverse country that has almost every 2 blocks that you travel, you encounter a different language. And so I'm very apprehensive about speaking different languages, but I've learned just go for it. And people are fairly gracious around the world and help you along. So I want to echo what Hannah said earlier about that. I'm interested in science education strategies, achieving science literacy for all. And in our doctoral program specifically, I sort of coordinate a concentration called socioscientific studies. And that's been interesting. We've had a bit of interest from our students in those particular issues, science-related social issues, essentially. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Short. All right.
So this is Andrea and I and one of our colleagues' sisters. We're in Ukraine this past summer. So how did we end up in Ukraine? because it wasn't on our agenda, and certainly wasn't on our travel authorization from the university. We left to go to Poland this year. But just a brief background as to how all of this collaboration came about with Hannah, I think, is Dr. Andrzej Kowalski, who is originally from Ukraine and a professor of physics here at Austin Peay State University, had this wonderful NSF grant to send our students to 3 EU countries over the past 3 years. And our team in education has been the evaluation team that has gone to look at what students have been doing in terms of their research, but also their personal growth and the educational effectiveness of the program to help propel them onto their future goals. And we just ended up in Poland this year to do our evaluation, and we're close by. Why not? We went into Ukraine, and it was wonderful. It was the greatest experience. So yeah. Oh, sorry. I think there's some more slides there, Andrea. I'm just talking through those. Okay. Yeah. I think some of you might recognize this beautiful church. Okay.
Святого Юра.
Yeah. And these are some of our students. You can just flip through those. Doing the work. They were actually looking at some nanotechnology and some applications of some novel amorphous solids that they were developing. Andrea, if you could click once more, maybe another time. This slide is a little bit goofy. One more time, maybe, and maybe. Oh, there we go. Okay. So, do any of you know Kevin Bacon? Okay, a U.S. Actor who isn't this young anymore, but mostly known for the movie Footloose. But there's this law that has come about called 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon, which essentially states that it's the idea that any 2 people on Earth are only 6 or fewer acquaintance links apart from each other. And that may be true mathematically, but in reality, oh, where'd we go there? There
Sorry
we
about
are. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, a couple clicks through on that. So here in the upper left, you'll see what you might typically find on a big ballroom floor at a conference where people are networking together. And mathematically, again, it may be true that there are many fewer than 6 degrees of separation between any 2 people on this floor. However, if you've ever been to these conferences and there's this well-noted researcher at the other end of the hall that you want to meet, it might seem impossible to reach them because we get clumped together in smaller networks. And then if you can click 1 or 2 more times there. Yeah, no, not there. Okay, there we go. There we go. Yeah, so I just recently returned from a conference, a fairly large conference, and I felt like this individual up to the upper right, where each dot is an actual person, and it just feels like they're flying through you and around you. And I'm a bit of an introvert, so it was kind of hard to sort through who should I be meeting and what am I doing here, and what is this networking all about. And so when we come to look at these different ways of networking that others will talk about, I kind of see it. Again, I'm an old biologist, so I look at things from kind of an ecological lens. And so all of these networking tools, whether it's ResearchGate or whether it's LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever it might be, this picture to the lower left kind of represents all the people that you know. Maybe each dot is 50 people or something, and these connections represent where you are with them. It's not necessarily important that you're on a daily basis communication with these people out here in the green, but there are those that work closest to you and closest to your particular research agenda. So these platforms, in my estimation, are simply to organize all of those people that are in your network. And of course, maybe you need to reach out to somebody at a further level, at some point, which is why I have the spider over here, because one, I just like seeing spiders spin their web, but also they kind of represent how we effectively go about networking. You'll notice the spider is constantly going back to old strands and keeping touch with them, while at the same time forming new connections with new strands. And so I feel like that's what some of the better platforms allow us to do, is keep in touch with those more distant relationships that we have, while keeping those that are most important to our immediate agenda close to us immediately. Okay, you can go on to the next. Okay, and one more, and we'll pause there for just a second. Okay, one more click, I think.
Okay. All right.
The other direction, yeah. No, go, yeah, click down one more. No, it's not. Huh,
No,
what's it
it's
doing?
not working.
Not going there.
That's okay. No worries.
Yeah. So what I had was a quote from somebody that I think everyone in STEM probably knows, but I don't really think that I'm the person to tell you the things that you need to do or the places you need to go to find out about networking opportunities. What I really want to talk about is what we need to be, not what we need to do or where we need to go. And I think a lot of this, at least from my perspective, has to do with our humility, because we're all in academia, which means we can grow our egos quite a bit. And that can be kind of dangerous to us and the whole field around us. So I'd like to talk just a little bit about humility, about our humanity. And if you have not seen this before, hold on, I'm pulling this up for my own sake. Sorry, Andrea. I'm not sure what's going on with the slides there. So how many of you are familiar with Isaac Newton and all of Isaac Newton's accomplishments? And a famous quote of his, which happens to be, because I want to get it right, I'm not good at quoting offhand. Okay. Sorry. Off just
Hey, Dr. Short, I can read it for you if you want.
Yeah, go ahead and read that for me.
This old man who got lost in the close neighborhood
No,
of his native village.
Nick, not that one. Sorry.
Oh, excuse me.
No, it's okay. Here's the quote. It's a very simple one. I couldn't get to it offhand. Okay, I'm not sure where we are on the slides there, but the quote is, "If I have seen further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants." Is everyone familiar with that? For some reason, I don't know where we are. There we are. Okay. So is this familiar to everyone? If I have seen further, it's by standing on the shoulders of giants. Okay, Isaac Newton wrote this to a contemporary colleague of his, but who was also a rival of his at the Royal Academy, Robert Hooke. So those of you in STEM probably know Robert Hooke also, who discovered the first cells, looking at quark cells and so forth. But they were kind of competitors, and Robert Hooke actually accused him of plagiarism and stealing some ideas and so forth. And so Newton had sent a letter to Robert Hooke, and it's been taken throughout the centuries to mean that, oh, Newton had a moment of humility here of saying that, if I've seen further, I'm standing on the shoulders of giants. But in fact, and ironically, that phrase had already been used by Robert Burton in 1621 in a piece called The Anatomy of Melancholy. But then we can go back further to 1159 and find that Bernard of Chartres issued the idea, and Bernard probably got the idea from William of Conches from 1123, who probably got the idea from, well, you get the idea. It goes on back further and further. Now, the really interesting thing is that before Newton had actually sent this letter. He had visited the cathedral where, and again, I guess we don't have the slide there, do we, Andrea?
No, I think there's some kind of tech issue.
Oh, okay. So he went to a cathedral where in the 1100s there was a stained glass window showing the four apostles from the New Testament, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, sitting on the shoulders of four prophets from the Old Testament, which is where Newton probably got the idea from the 1100s. The point being here is that we need to check our priorities, surround ourselves with humility, and realize that any of our accomplishments could not have been possible if we were working as an island, that we are very dependent on those around us, just like the group that's on the screen here today, as well as those who possibly came before and maybe centuries before us. So I don't know what we're going to do here with the next few slides, but I wanted to also talk about a quote from Maya Angelou that says, I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And I think this is really important. I come from the STEM world. And in the STEM world, we're known for being, having blinders on, doing specifically what we need to do for our research, but sometimes forgetting empathy, sometimes forgetting about the social network around us that makes our work possible. And so it is important that while you're helping others and receiving help from others, that we acknowledge it in a very gracious way. And we acknowledge where other people may be, which is possibly not the spot where you are right now, and have a little bit of grace with that as we're working with each other. I had another quote from Steve Jobs, and then I had a quote, and Nick, if you want to read this now, you can. I had it in, am I right, Andrea, in Cyrillic? And
Yes,
then,
that's correct.
and then I had to translate it for myself. But Nick, would you want to read that? But don't read the author. I want to see if they know who the author is.
So this quote's from Ivan Franko.
Oh, no, you gave him the author.
Oh, I apologize. I misheard what you said. The quote might be. This old man who got lost in the close neighborhood of his native village, who stands in the middle of a smooth, level road and does not know which way to go home, is he not a symbol of our entire people? Exhausted by a difficult fate, he wanders, unable to find his way, and stands like the lost peasant in the middle path between the past and the future, between a wide and free development and an unhappy present, and does not know where to go. He has neither strength nor hope to reach the goal. Who will show you the way? Who will lead you down?
Thanks, Nick. And the reason I put this in here is because around the world, people are facing different circumstances. And we won't go into all of those, but we're all aware, right? And I think that's probably where this statement is coming from, a period of time when people are facing difficult circumstances. But I wanted to also use it in a metaphorical sense to relate to where all of us are on our research journeys and our agendas to collaborate with each other. Speaking for myself, and I might be the oldest person on the screen here, still today, I feel like a lost puppy, wandering around in the streets, not knowing what direction I should go next, what grant I should apply for, and who I should connect, who might help with that particular agenda. And again, I think we, first and foremost, need to check our priorities. I'm speaking for myself, everything that I want to do, I want to make sure that it's leaving the world a little bit better place in the context in which I work. If I'm not doing that, then nothing that I do is worthwhile. Secondly, in networking, I want to find people who have similar interests and similar heart for that particular project, who I can contribute to their work and they can contribute to my work. And again, for the ultimate purpose in my mind of leaving the world a little bit better place within the context of what we do. And I'll leave it at that. And thank you for inviting me here.
Thank you so much, Dr. Short. All right, so I'm going to move on to the next slide.
Oh, there they are.
Oh, there we go. We can see now. Got a little mixed up there, so you can see. All right, so you can see the quote here. All right. Okay, Nick, when you're ready.
Hey, greetings. I'm Nick Hurst. Wanted to reach out and say thank you again for being here. But for the good of the group, if I asked you what is the hardest part of networking, what would you say? And go ahead and spend a moment putting that in the group chat so we can kind of see what you find as a challenge to networking, and whatever it is, we'll be able to kind of decipher and get a general gist of it. But as we go through and talk about it, we can understand that networking is basically for anybody. If you are an introvert, if you're an extrovert, talking to strangers, absolutely. Whichever industry you're in, the soft skills that come to value and improving your network make a significant change. And you're going to invest in it. There are many phrases out there to talk about the value of networks. Your network is your value. That is a way to say it. But basically how to invest, right? And so this quote represents that essentially networking is for everybody. So as we talked, networking challenges, everybody here, it seems like talking to strangers, talking through spam filters, talking through any kind of filter seems to be that challenge, right? And so we're going to have a little tips, some basic building, some opportunities to kind of discuss how you can network and how you can improve that. Dr. Short talked earlier about using LinkedIn and different collaboration platforms, and there are so many opportunities with that. So a quick way to discuss that is that if you're going to attend a conference, and I encourage you to get out and attend a conference, meet people, go out there. But how do you do that? How do you remember? Well, everybody at that conference is for the same purpose, right? So you are amongst others. And most people, as you can see, are worried about talking to new people. So you're in good company. I would encourage you to go out and just put the effort out. Put yourself out there and go out there and talk to them. Have the conversation and strike up something that is genuinely interesting to you. And so when you're talking to them, you can present who you are, what you're passionate about, but really talking to them and asking them leading questions. Why are you here? What is something that motivates you? How do you develop this? And find out genuinely what motivates them. And so if you're at that conference, if you're using the online platforms, and if you're collaborating, you have a genuine interest. But what more is you have to solidify that. You'll meet people at conferences. As Dr. Short had talked, you'll meet a lot of people at conferences. It goes really quickly. And so a key way to do that is to try to capture their business card, kind of try to capture their contact information. And then you can use your online platform. You can send them an email. You can send them a LinkedIn profile, a LinkedIn request. But more, excuse me, but more is that you don't want to use the generic, hey, I'd like to add you on my LinkedIn profile. Hey, a better way to approach this topic would be that you would say, hey, at this conference, we had talked about this event or this philosophy or this opportunity. And so you are personalizing that request to that individual. And what's really useful about that is that 6 months, 3 weeks, 2 years, whenever you go back to re-engage that network, you have that snapshot of what you've already talked about. So they remember, you remember, and you can continue that conversation pretty quick and easy. But what's important is that you pause to reflect on that connection that you just made sometime. So either after the conversation when you have a moment of privacy, or at the end of the conference when you go back and you're reflecting on your notes and your personality and how you did that. I would encourage you, as you reach out to people, say, hey, this is how we met. Obviously use it in a good context, but this is why we have a connection. And then further that connection periodically. It could be on the anniversary, it could be on their birthday. LinkedIn does a lot of opportunities to facilitate conversation. And so as you build that, you're going to build a trust. And that networking is essentially the foundation of your trust. You can go in there and build it and invest in it, and then you're going to now have a relationship. So with your relationship, you're going to continue to start with yourself. You build that trust because you're an authentic person. And so if you present as an inauthentic person, so a fake person, you're going to have a really hard time having that fake persona going forward, right? So genuinely go in there. If you are interested in cats, talk about cats and have that relationship. But if you don't like cats, if you are unhappy, if you don't find them fun, you find them furry or whatever, you're going to then struggle to maintain that falsehood. So always start with something that is authentic about yourself and that relationship, that connection that you have. You offer mutual value, right? So relationships are a two-way street. You have to provide something to them, and they're going to provide something back to you. It might be that you're providing them context, a conversation, an opportunity, or even just a friend. So you can then go and say, hey, you're interested in, we'll say, researching academia. I have a friend who is also researching in academia. Y'all have similar topics. Maybe you would like to collaborate. And then, of course, you always balance the professional and the personal. Everyone here is a human being. And that's one of the values of building a relationship, is that you have that trust, you have that foundation, and then you can get to know people, and then that will further develop your trust and your relationship. Essentially, if networking is investing in you, relationships are the compound interest on that investment. And it is an opportunity just to continually grow. And then years and months and opportunities down, you'll have much more to talk about and build on. I'd like to part with embracing your strengths. This is a new opportunity. Everybody here says they are struggling, they are having a hard time going out there doing the introduction. The hardest part is to go out there, show your strengths, and walk up there and say, hey, introduce yourself, and then start talking about whatever context you can to start that networking and then build that relationship. Have fun in your academic journey. I look forward to your questions.
Thank you so much, Nick. That was great. I also want to emphasize informal gatherings. The picture on the left is a photo that we took a few weeks ago on a kayaking trip. So this is our doctoral faculty and one of our doctoral students that joined us. So cultivating meaningful relationships through food, fun, and good conversation. So try to find meaningful and enjoyable ways to connect with people. I genuinely enjoy spending time with my colleagues. I consider them to be my good friends. We often have meals together. We go kayaking together. We take our doctoral students. These informal experiences often lead to creative and innovative ideas that may not have emerged through formal events or meetings. So the field of education, of course, is often very busy. We all have demanding schedules as teachers, professors, or students, right? But it's also important to take some time to have fun and relax. And I do that with my colleagues. And through these events, we often brainstorm ideas together. And these are just some examples of some of those things that we do. So another thing that we are going to be doing later this week is a dinner at Phil's house. And Phil's wife is actually my mentor. We're going to have a soup dinner together. Phil's wife is going to prepare 4 different kinds of soup, and the rest of us, we're going to take bread, crackers, desserts, and things like that. But through this experience, we just have good conversations and opportunities to chat, to generate ideas, to brainstorm. And these are some topics that we recently discussed at some of these events, the kayaking trip, for example, the pros and cons of generative AI in our Doctor of Education program, how we can internationalize our Doctor of Education program, how we can better support our international students, how we can find more academic writing supports for our students, grant funding. We also spent time reflecting on our trip to Poland and Ukraine this summer. So these are just some things that we've chatted about outside of formal meetings on our kayaking trip, over meals at lunch and dinner together. Some networking tips for introverts. I'm actually an introvert. I hate public speaking. I don't like going to conferences and networking, but I know it's so important for my job and I have to do it. So one tip that I have first is setting boundaries. So if you know talking to other people is going to make you tired, make sure you set boundaries and maybe set aside only certain days during the week when you're going to network so it doesn't deplete your energy. Maybe start with online networking too, especially if you feel uncomfortable being with people face to face. There are a lot of opportunities for virtual networking. Using written communication too to network. So if you really don't want to talk to people, and I get it, sometimes I don't want to, having written communication can help too. I also, especially when I go to conferences, I come up with possible conversation starters and prepare questions, especially for networking events. So I don't have all of this built up anxiety. I already have some things that I know I want to talk about. Also, I would promote quality over quantity, like the small group that goes together kayaking. It's just a few of us, but we have really engaging conversations on the river or at dinners. And I think just having a small group can also be impactful for networking purposes. Maybe consider joining smaller events. It doesn't have to be a massive conference. And I would also emphasize recharging as needed. As an introvert, I know when I have weeks just full of meetings or presentations or conferences, I get exhausted really quickly. So make sure you take some time on the weekend or in the evening, even just an hour or two, to physically and emotionally recharge because it is important. All right, and I wanted to share some opportunities with you for virtual networking. And this is an organization that I'm a part of. It's called the Star Scholars Network. I'm the U.S. country director for this organization, and my role is to promote cross-border collaborations. And ideally, a lot of the things that we do should be free and accessible to people all over the world. One example, in the spring, we hosted a free virtual conference and we had participants from all over the world. And what actually surprised me, about a fourth of our participants were from Cuba. And I have never had the opportunity, especially as an American, to interact with people from Cuba. So it was a great way to really interact with people all over the globe and to bridge some cultural and political divides as well, because, you know, I just haven't had the chance to interact with people from some countries like Cuba. So it was a really good opportunity, I think. So who are we as an organization? The Star Scholars Network is a global grassroots organization that builds communities to support the academic mobility of international scholars working across borders. We leverage the power of transnational connections to build communities that support the advancement of new generations of scholars working across borders. We actually have about 20,000 plus participants in our programs representing 115 different countries. And one particular program that I want to mention briefly is our Millennium Scholars Program. We're actually going to be starting it very soon, and I'm going to be co-leading this with another member of the Star Scholars Network. So what is the Millennium Scholars Program? It's the premier scholarship development program of the Star Scholars Network. We provide emerging and early career scholars with the opportunity to build the network and knowledge needed to advance their academic careers. And we want to help participants really disseminate their research and scholarship to a global audience. And these are some of our goals: facilitating the creation of lifelong peer support networks across borders. We want to deepen engagement between established scholars in the network. So if anyone might be interested in delivering a workshop or presentation for this event, just let me know. Bridging disciplinary and methodological divides, building human-to-human relationships, and truly increasing the visibility of emerging scholars and the impact of their work. If you are interested in being a mentee, so if you are a doctoral student or an early career scholar in the first 3 years of your career in academia, this might be of interest to you. The program runs from 15 January 2025 to 15 April. And if you are interested, you'll need to submit a short bio with your research interests, participate in monthly workshops, attend online monthly check-in sessions, dedicate sufficient time to a specific project. It might be a grant, it might be an article that you're going to work on with your mentor. And then at the end, there's going to be a closing symposium where you will present your work. And then if you're interested in being a mentor, if you are an established, person working in academia, 3+ years, we'll say, and you have an interest in supporting junior colleagues and doctoral students, this might be of interest to you. So I will share the link to both of the application sites for mentors and mentees. And if anyone is interested, please feel free to register. The deadline to apply is 1 December. I will be sending matching emails on 10 December, and then there's a deadline to accept or decline on 15 December. And then once again, from January until April, we will have those monthly mentor-mentee meetings. So if you're interested in applying, this is the QR code. I'll give you a minute to open that. And we can also share the slides after the presentation for anybody that's interested. And I also want to mention that the sky is truly the limit with the STAR Scholars Network. I often lead free workshops, presentations. We have virtual conferences. So if you have an idea for a workshop, presentation, or other initiative to support the STAR Scholars mission, just let me know. And I'm open to so many possibilities with collaboration in this organization. So next we have Dr. Bailey who's going to present. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, I'm so sorry, Dr. Daniel, but you are unmuted.
Oh,
That's
Dr.
okay. I
Bailey.
keep doing that. I don't want my computer noises to
Oh,
be
no
bothering.
worries.
Can we back up? Is that the first slide? There we go. I think that could be it. So I just want to talk a bit about conferences. Social media, sure, like every conference has a social media presence. And some of my experiences with like when I began building a footprint in academia. It began with the local conferences. In South Korea, we have Korea TESOL, and it is basically a third tier level of presence as far as international language organizations go. And basically what I'm saying is that it was smaller grassroots level of an organization. And what that allowed me to do is allowed me to submit presentations on relatively simple topics. For example, like electronic badges. If you're teaching a course, you can use these things called electronic badges for motivation. It was something that was simple, a nice 20-30 minute presentation to give me some experience giving presentations early on. And because it was a grassroots, a smaller conference organization, there was less competition for getting opportunity to present. So when and starting with presentations can lead you towards something more formal like a research paper, which is also a fantastic thing to always be kind of working on. If you haven't yet, perhaps give yourself a goal of putting together some sort of academic paper. An academic paper will do so much for you professionally. It gives you the opportunity to have something to present about. And your first research paper has an extremely high reward as far as payoff goes on how others will kind of understand who you are and what you are about. What I just wanted to really emphasize, finding out what kind of conferences are in your area. They can be online as well. This is the video. You never got the updated one, did you, Andrea? I wanted to share. That's fine. So what you just saw is this video, and that's cool. And really, there are a couple of things. So first off, there are your American Psychological Associations, your larger, big time organizations, and they're great because they have a huge, a huge footprint, but they're also kind of a problem because it's going to be more competitive to get opportunity to have slot presentations at their conferences, and their conferences are quite expensive. So finding out, and I'm not sure what your backgrounds are, but finding out, and again, like local chapters, or even being someone who spearheads the development of a local chapter. And this can be a lot with what Star Scholars does, to volunteer and work with Star Scholars, or something like Korea TESOL or TESOL in your region. And basically, finding out how to, I want to say volunteer. Because for those of you who might be shy at networking when you go to a conference, you're not wanting to really just pick up conversations with strangers. When you're volunteering, and I really can't emphasize this enough, just volunteering is going in and being the person that holds up that 5 minutes till the presentation is over kind of person, or going into setting up tables, or just helping the conferences in whatever capacity possible. You're going to see the front end and the back end of how these conferences work. You're probably going to slowly build up responsibility with that conference, to where you will be perhaps a liaison for some of their keynote speakers, really meeting. It's one thing to meet other people looking at the conference presentations, but it's a totally new thing. It's a totally different thing to meet the presenters. And I noticed that, Hannah, you had questions, like the first question you put in the notes would be, could you model how to introduce yourself in a conference? Well, one thing is, going up to the speaker after they're done talking. Those presenters are so keen on talking to audience members. They're going to probably do most of the speaking. You just go up and shake their hand, say, hello, that was interesting. Can you tell me more? And you'll get a whole other presentation in the hallways, elaborating on whatever their topic of discussion was. And usually you won't be the only one. You'll probably be with a group of people who are interested in knowing more about a certain presentation. So really going up to the speakers. If it's the keynote speaker, of course, you probably are not going to have opportunity to really talk to them. But the smaller, concurrent sessions, when you go and talk to those speakers, those are great people, very comfortable to break the ice. And on the flip side, if you are the speaker, you're going to have others want to talk to you more about whatever the topic is that you were presenting on. So I can't emphasize giving presentations early, finding those local chapters that are less competitive, free even. Remote online conferences like what we're doing here is wonderful, but there is such a lack of that face-to-face handshaking opportunity. So if you can find something in your city, and if you can contact these organizations, and I don't know, we're all coming from these different backgrounds, so I can't really isolate one in particular, but you contact an organization that's connected to your academic discipline. Ask them, what does it take to open up a chapter? That sounds like a lot of work, but it really is just setting up a couple of meetings once a month and having like-minded people come, and it could be something as small as a coffee shop, and discussing issues that are related to the studies that you're passionate about. And Hannah, you also asked, what's the opportunity lost of not going to these conferences? Well, one thing I think is you're not staying fresh on the topics that are of interest. You're not perhaps at the front of what is being talked about, and so you lose out on what kind of areas that you might want to personally pursue what areas of study you might want to personally pursue. But that's a great question, because there's cost of going to conferences, financial, logistics, and I think there's very little cost when they are online, remote like this. So regardless of being able to go to face-to-face conferences, you should try to be able to make the online conferences. And I recommend using you can use I actually use I use GPT to create this table that showed all a list of these different conference organizations, and then their different social media. And then you can find out where the events are being held, what events are close to you. So you can kind of leverage AI to even help you make a bigger networking footprint. So yeah. That's basically it. I just can't emphasize enough the importance of getting out there and presenting, getting your first paper published. It is the most difficult to publish, but it has the highest payoff. It's actually even every paper after your first paper is basically the payoff is cut in half. I emphasize strongly that you go out there and present. And another cool thing about presenting is that you become comfortable standing in front. Of course, it's like teaching. You're not scared. Maybe you are, but not really after our first couple of days of teaching. You're not scared of standing in front of students. And it's because you have that role of a teacher, that defined role. You know, you're the one that's supposed to have this, like, on the stage presence. And the same goes for conference presentations. You build this confidence, being able to stand in front of people and talk about, things that you hopefully, you understand well and care about. And it's just a lot of fun, actually. It can be a lot of fun. Yeah. So definitely go out, try to find some of the local organizations in your area. If you can, volunteer, learn the people, network with the people who are in that organization, who run it, and try to, and even go and find those local, like, Facebook groups where, the smaller Facebook groups with those local organizations. There's a lot of interpersonal communication going on there, and that's a good opportunity for networking.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bailey, and thank you to all of our presenters. I know we're running a little short on time, but we do have a breakout room activity. If anyone needs to sign off, it's completely okay. I know we said this would be an hour, but I do think it would be nice to spend a little bit of time getting to know each other. So I'm going to put a link to a breakout room activity into the chat box. You can also see the QR code on the screen right there. And we are going to put you into random breakout rooms, and we have provided some questions for you guys to discuss together. So for this activity, one group member can lead the discussion and screen share. Anyone is welcome to lead, but please be actively involved. Even if you're shy, don't worry. And I was an English language instructor too, and I butcher the Korean language all the time, even at home. But my husband always tells me, you just have to practice, right? So don't worry about your English if it's not up to the standard that you want just yet. So this is important. Yes.
Clarify how many people we need in the one breakout.
So I recommend let's do groups of about 4 to 5. I think that will be a good size. Yeah. So let's spend about 15 minutes on this. Like I said, if anybody needs to leave, it's completely okay. And then after 15 minutes, we'll come back to the main room and we will do our final reflection and discussion. And if anybody has any questions, they can ask. So if one of you could lead the discussion in your groups, that would be great. Don't be shy. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. We all do. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and make these breakout rooms. Yes. Okay.
I want to play in the breakout room. What are they? What are we doing in them? What are they doing in them?
Discussion questions. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So we'll do about 15 minutes. Yes.
I will join.
Okay. Fabulous.